second.
It's the very first time I've ever done this.
Okay. Hello, beautiful people. I am your moderator, Ashley Lowe Blassingame. Beginning this year, National Online Recovery Day will be observed on September 22nd during National Recovery Month, driving widespread awareness for online treatment and long-term recovery support programs. To commemorate National Online Recovery Day, Lionrock will be hosting a series of interactive panels called Life in Recovery, leading up to our huge celebration September 22nd. Keep a close eye on our social platforms for details on both our August and September panels. Welcome to our first panel, Staying Sober at Home. Let's do this. All right. Let's do some quick intros. I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Emily first.
Great. My name is Emily, and I'm an alcoholic.
Hi, Emily.
Emily. Thank you. Really appreciate the actual feedback. My sobriety date is September 25th, 2009. So I'm inching toward 11 years sober, nights and weekends included. I know. I live in Southern California. I'm originally from the Boston area. Woo woo. And sorry, a little bit of hometown pride. I live in Southern California with my husband, who's also in recovery, and our two daughters. I work as a professional photographer, a writer, blogger, speaker, kind of jack of all trades. But mostly I share about like honest, raw motherhood and recovery. Yeah, I feel like I'm just trying to build like a community where people can come as they are and show up imperfectly and create space by being honest for others to also be honest and human and just, you know, get behind the highlight reel of social media. And I think that's, that'll do it.
Thanks, Em. All right, Brittany.
Hi, my name is Brittany Carbone. I'm an alcoholic.
Hi, Brittany.
Thanks, guys. I'm so.
Hi, Brittany. Sorry, I was mid-yawn. My bad.
Whatever, George.
30-second delay over there.
My sobriety date is December 21st, 2008. About 11 and a half years sober, just so crazy to me still. And I am a lifestyle coach for women, and I am a speaker, and I'm sober AF. And I'm super passionate about helping women become the best version of themselves. Really passionate about nutrition from the inside out, and really making nutrition and fitness about empowering yourself versus like losing weight or looking a certain way, but allowing that to be a side effect of what happens when you show up for yourself. So I really believe in holistic health and really looking at every side of an individual. And for me, in my sobriety, fitness transformed my sobriety. It helped me so much with my anxiety and depression, which I know we'll talk more about. And I'm just really passionate about helping others experience the same. So that's it.
Thanks, Brittany. All right, last but not least, George.
Hi, I'm George. I'm an alcoholic.
Hi, George.
I'm bald. I'm huge, and I'm very hot, apparently. Yeah. No, I'm sober. Thank God. Like, you know, I relate every day that goes by that I'm still sober. I'm like, it's more of a miracle now than it was even in the beginning, because it's like, I don't know. My sobriety date is October 3rd, 2002. Almost 18 years, which I don't, I mean, whatever. I was talking to my wife the other day. We met when I was sober for 9 years, and I felt like that was a lifetime at that point. And it is a very long time, but it's like life is just going very fast because I have a very, very, very full life, and it's completely owed to the fact that I was able to arrest this problem. And then all of my other successes spring from that one success. And my whole life is a beautiful whirlwind of humor, love, anxiety. I know that sounds funny to put that in there, but my anxiety is a little bit of a strength because it helps me keep going from, you know, it's not debilitating at this point, which it has been. I live in New York. I grew up in Long Island, New York. I lived in California for 1 year. That's where I met you guys. And I'm married. I have 2 boys, 1 stepdaughter, 2 dogs. I yell a lot in my house, but it's out of love, and it's mostly at the dogs. And I make memes essentially for a living, but I just try and bring joy to people for a living. Like, I make memes, which are usually irreverent, because I believe that humor cuts through all the nonsense that people try to put forth as the most important stuff. I think that humor cuts through all that. I have another page called Tank's Good News, which is, self-evident what that is. It's just the best of what happened every day. And then I have Influencers in the Wild, which is kind of like a little snarky, like Emily said, but the opposite, the other, a little bit of a different take of the life behind the highlight reel. Like, this is what it looks like. And it's all in good fun. And my whole life is in good fun. And I really don't hang out with people or associate with people who aren't bettering themselves in one way or another. I don't know any perfect people. I'm not a perfect person, but I refuse to associate with people who are not at least trying to live a better life for themselves and the people around them.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks for being here, you guys. I have an icebreaker. You get 1 word to describe 2020 without cussing. What would it be? George.
I can't explain it, right? It's just 1 word.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to sound annoying, but opportunity.
Okay. Like it. M?
I want to reevaluate my word, George.
That was your word?
No, I said, now I want to reevaluate my word, because you made me think of other words. Now I'm overthinking it. That's what I do for sport. I overthink. Unpredictable.
Brittany?
I don't know if it's a word, but
The sound.
Is that the word?
Is it a word?
Okay. It's in the Urban Dictionary, so I think it'll work.
Perfect.
I'll take it. Okay. Awesome. All right. We're going to get into some questions. There are going to be some people submitting live questions to us. And as they come in, I will field them and get them to you. But I want to start off with a question for Emily. Emily, as a mommy lifestyle blogger and recovery advocate, you share a lot about the ups and downs of parenting. You shared recently about some deeper struggles you've had during the pandemic. How did you make the decision to be open about that?
That's a good question. Okay, so the struggle that you're referring to, I feel like I should just kind of like explain that. It's interesting. So in the whole time of my sobriety, I don't really find myself like craving drugs or alcohol since I got sober. I think I'm fortunate in that way. And then COVID happened, and I was doing pretty good at staying. I feel like as people in recovery, we're sort of like, we've been in training. This is our Super Bowl. We've been preparing for this. This is like one day at a time, keep it small. And I think for me, a tipping point when they just took school away from us, if you're a parent, you might understand how that was a little at that moment. And I just think it was like me feeling that absolute powerlessness in that moment. And like, there was just like nothing to look, not that there was nothing to look forward to, but they kept giving us these fake dates. Like, you're going to go back April 13th. And I'm like, okay, I got to make it to April 13th, May 1st. And then it was like, just kidding. Like, it's summer, it's April and it's summer. And it triggered me. Like I had this feeling like I just wanted to check out, and that manifested in the thought that like I would like to get drunk because everybody seems to be getting drunk right now. That's what my whole social media feed felt like in that moment. And so I didn't want to share that actually, because I like to share hopeful, positive things. I think George, Brittany, and I, and you all have that kind of in common. We like to look for the solution. And I was like, no, like, I don't want to scare people who maybe are looking to me, but then I thought, okay, like, what do I do? Like, what do I do in my space? I tell the truth. Like, this is what I do. Like, I show up as I am because somebody else is probably going through that. And I also get to show up and tell the truth and say, look, like, I wanted to drink, but also I was able to recognize, I didn't really want to drink. I wanted to not feel how I was feeling. I was pissed. I was scared, I was overwhelmed, and I wasn't really getting a break, you know? And so it was really more about like checking out. I was able to play that tape through to the part where it's like, yeah, you didn't just have a drink to take the edge off. You drank the whole bottle and you blacked out, you know, and did some embarrassing stuff. So I just made the choice to share it because that's just, I feel like in recovery, I've just been trained to like not have secrets, to always tell my truth. And it's like, even if I'm like, I'm not telling anyone that, and then I always tell someone my own stuff. It's like, I can't not tell them myself. And I feel like the people who follow me on my social media and blog are like expecting that truth. And so it was really powerful to share that. It was really uncomfortable. I'm not a person who like cries in their stories, which God bless those people. They are so brave. But like, I mean, I was able to like share that moment and process it and walk through it. And so that's kind of why I decided to share that.
That's awesome. Thank you. Brittany, you actually got sober completely online through chat rooms. How has engaging in recovery online during the pandemic been different?
Different. Well, first of all, I have to just like shout out Emily, that her post, like if you guys haven't gone to check it out, go check out her Insta because it's so good. It's just so good. And so raw and real. And like, you're right. Like that is the stuff that we learn here. It's like how to be open and honest, which actually kind of segues randomly into what I was just going to say. So I did get sober online. We didn't have Zoom. I got sober a little bit over 11 years ago. And I don't know if Zoom was a thing then, but I had Googled blacking out because I had blacked out again. And I thought for sure, like there was like an EpiPen or like something. I found out later you could probably just do some cocaine, but it would take away the blackouts. I thought like it was a thing. Like I thought it was like a peanut allergy. So I was Googling blacking out and I found a chat room. And it was, I am certain, the only way I would have gotten sober because I was not a person who was going to put their ego aside and walk into a room of people and admit that I have a problem. I was never like an everyday drinker. So my head would tell me like, alcoholism didn't even like occur to me as a possibility. An allergy, like a legit allergy, which, you know, there is a spiritual allergy and a physical allergy to alcohol, but in a different way, I thought it would be, you know, something else. So anyways, blacking out led me to this chat room. For the first time, like Emily shared, I shared openly and honestly, again, not seeing anyone. It was all typing. So like there would be someone sharing like in a regular meeting and then you would push asterisk if you wanted to share. And I got to get open and honest for the first time in my entire life. And I do believe that was the only way I would have gotten sober. So the difference now, I think is just that it's not on camera, but I think it's beautiful that people can come on Zoom and hide, you know, if they want to, until they're ready. And then maybe they'll turn their camera on and maybe then they'll share one day. But for me, you know, the getting on sober online, it was everything. Like, I don't think I would have gotten sober if it wasn't for that. So transitioning to now, this feels so comfortable. I'm like, this is great. Like, I don't have to go anywhere. Like, I think Em and I were talking about the other day, like I'm going to way more meetings than I've gone to in years. I am way deeper into my sobriety now and the spiritual solution than I've been in a long time. Like it's honestly gotten me back into the steps, sponsoring, being on meetings, being of service. It's gotten me like fired up about 12-step meetings again. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
George, you have an enormous following on social media with your Instagram meme account, Tank Sinatra and Tank's Good News. With people needing good news more than ever, have you felt pressure to deliver good news at a time when being positive might seem impossible? And how has that impacted your sobriety?
Trying to make me power down. Oh my God.
Live.
Sorry.
It's a big question. So yes. What I would say. No, it's been, so first of all, not to go backwards, but Emily, sharing about that stuff is one of my favorite things to do. Just to let people know, like, you're not alone. And if we all walk into a room with a problem and we all have the same problem, then guess what? It's not a problem anymore. It's just the way things are. So I've tried to live my life pretty open and out there just because I'm not ashamed of who I am. I have great grammar. not ashamed of who I am anymore. But it was, I mean, there was a period of time where it was really, really difficult. Like I felt, because I refuse to pick a side, like I am this or I am that, I believe in this, I believe in that, no matter what the details, no matter what news comes out, I found myself, instead of just drawing a line in the sand and saying, hey, I'm on the left, the right, people on the right can be pissed off all they want, or doing vice versa, I was potentially pissing off 85% of people every single day with what I was posting. And they let me know it. And the only thing that got me through it was all of the practice and all of the years and the repetition of letting things go and letting sick people be sick people and not taking that on. But that's why I said opportunity, because I feel like this for me was an opportunity to dig even deeper. I had all the time in the world. For the record, not everyone who hides themselves on Zoom is scared. Some people are doing push-ups like me, or just don't want to be, laying on the couch like this in a meeting. So I hide myself.
I'm meal prepping usually, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, it's so
truth.
convenient. But when you're dealing, I don't know, it's hard to describe, because when you're dealing with so many people, the chances of somebody having a bad day and taking it out on you are 100% every single day.
Yeah.
So what that makes me have to do is really make sure that I'm right with myself and I'm not slacking and I'm not lacking in self-esteem to the extent where someone would say something and it would sting me. Because when I'm on my game, anybody could say anything they want and I don't take it seriously. I'm like, you're out of your mind. You don't know who you're talking about. But if I've been laying around for 3 days and somebody says something, it's like, it hurts. So it's forced me to really be on top of my game and make sure that I'm being active, being successful in, I watched the Last Dance, the Michael Jordan documentary, and that like changed the way I saw my downtime, because Michael Jordan and his coach said that you're only a success in the exact moment you're performing a successful act, which made sense to me why after laying around for 3 hours, I would start to feel like a little bit of a loser. So I would I would get up and do something, and then I would automatically feel better. So the action part of this program and this whole life became much more important to me. I was in a little bit of a rut, to be quite honest with you, when COVID struck. And I was able to make more phone calls, connect deeper on, more personal levels with guys in the group, because I wasn't seeing them in a superficial way every Sunday and Thursday and Monday and Saturday morning. It wasn't, hey, how's it going? It was like, hello, how are you? Tell me everything right now. Like, I need to know. I don't want to just. So it helped me. And the thing that I thought about right off the bat was in the 12 and 12, there's a part where he's talking about people who had to go off to war after they had gotten sober, and how these people, even though they didn't have the fellowship, had greater sobriety, smaller rates of relapse than people who were at home.
Wow.
And it's because you have to become dependent on the higher power in the most effective way possible. And you can't rely on, meetings are great, fellowship is great. It does become a little bit of a substitute, and it makes things kind of like, things are not that painful right now, so I won't do the work. Well, that lasted for about 2 weeks, and then I got to doing the work. And I resisted the Zoom meetings. I kept saying, if I go to a restaurant, like Zoom to me is like Pepsi in a restaurant. When you order Coke and they're like, is Pepsi okay? It's like, no, it's not okay. Essentially, you go to enough restaurants, like, this is all we have. Zoom is it. So yeah, I'm going to have a Pepsi eventually, and now I love Pepsi. I can do push-ups while I drink Pepsi. So Diet Coke, yeah. So it's been sponsored. It's been an opportunity for me to grow, and doing stuff like this. I mean, automatic yes, anything like this. So thanks for asking me to do this.
Thank you. Emily, I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about something that we all have experience with, which is food and eating issues. So, you have shared openly about your eating disorder recovery and how that's an important part of your sobriety. How has that piece of your recovery affected you during COVID?
Oh, my goodness. Okay. Well, the reason I should say, I kind of want to shed a little light on that. The reason for me that the eating disorder recovery is so important with my sobriety is because that's what I had at one point. I had put 2.5 years together, and that's what took me out. I mean, if I don't have that under wraps, I don't get to stay sober. That's just a fact. Are in my recovery, obviously a spiritual connection. It doesn't matter what you believe in. I don't want to scare anyone off with like God talk, but whatever. If you're scared of that, I'm sorry. But I had a belief that whenever things were going to go, I had a belief in like a punishing God. I had a belief that when things were going well, that God was going to come and pull the rug from under my feet. Turns out I was pulling the rug under from my own feet, which is interesting. But I just, that's what I believed in. And I had 2.5 years sober, and I was at a noon meeting at a club that we all have frequented. And I had like a moment of clarity where I was like, oh my God, I don't think that God can relieve me of that, of the eating disorder stuff. I just don't think it's ever going to get better. It's never going to happen. And I was loaded by the end of that week. I mean, it literally, quite literally took me out. And I had to go through a lot to get sober again and literally claw my way back in. Actually, when George moved here, George was taking his birthday. I was a newcomer, and we were hanging out with the same, friends. And so that was such a fun time. But anyways, in experiencing trying to get sober again, because I couldn't stay sober on my own, I kept relapsing between meetings. But when I started to put time together, I started to understand that like, I don't stay sober on my own, but whatever was at work, whatever that is, the universe, source, love, God, whatever the heck you want to call it, could not be punishing if now I was staying sober. I knew left to my own devices, I could not stay sober. Something was keeping me sober and helping me stay sober. Whatever that was had to be loving. Whatever that was had to want me to be happy, joyous, and free. And that really changed everything. That's my whole sobriety is on that foundation. And when those thoughts would pop up that like, oh, I don't know if this is going to ever go away. It was like, nope, I don't believe that anymore. I believe in a loving God or a loving power or a loving energy, whatever. And so that's carried over into COVID because I've had to really rely on that connection, that higher self, that belief that things always work out for me. And for you, but that's like an affirmation for me, is things always work out for me. Everything is flowing towards well-being. Ashley knows that one because we used to share a sponsor. And the food stuff has been interesting. I will not lie and tell you that it has been perfect for me. There have been moments of struggle 100% because we're freaking at home. Like, especially in the beginning of it, when we were really locked down and it was like raining here a lot and you just really couldn't go anywhere, and you've got crazy kids, or I've got crazy kids who just want to like fight all day, and they'd go to bed at night and it was like, I really need 3 bowls of cereal right now. You know what I mean? Like, that is what would make me feel a lot better. And it's like, but my reaction to having 3 bowls of cereal is like not normal. I get anxious and panic and don't feel good, So it's been wild to try to keep that in check and just really dig into my program and reach out and share honestly with others and work out, because like what Britt was saying, for the mental side effect, like it is absolutely imperative for me to move my body more days a week than not if I don't want to like slip into a very deep state of depression during all of this, because then I gotta I'm a person who was born with ADHD, like with crazy energy, and like I gotta burn it somehow. So, and I don't have drugs and alcohol to take me out of that. So it's like I gotta burn it. But anyways, that was long-winded answer.
No, it was awesome. It was awesome, and it's a perfect segue to Brittany. With your background in recovery, nutrition, and fitness, you must get a lot of people reaching out to you for guidance while mandated to stay home. What are you seeing with regard to people's eating and fitness habits? And have you found that people are developing new struggles in this area? And what are you telling them to do?
Oh my gosh. Wow. Yeah, it's been so interesting. Well, it's so interesting because I was actually just talking about this the other day, where it's like people who've never had eating issues, like, surprise, you got an eating issue. Like, it's like, like maybe they're not typically a stress eater. Maybe they're not typically someone who drinks. Maybe they're not typically, not everyone's an alcoholic, or not everyone has an eating disorder, right? Some people, I call them like weird, right? I'm like, maybe they do. I'm just kidding. But like, some people are just weird with food, right? Or some people are just like weird with alcohol, or whatever it is. We really have to decide for ourselves. But
I was just weird with alcohol. That's what it was.
Like, I watch everyone who does this Brittany Carbone said that I'm just weird with alcohol. I'm not an alcoholic. No,
She
but
needs that cocaine EpiPen.
Yeah, dude. I should have found
Why
that.
didn't I have that in my toolkit?
I know. It would have really, I mean, it worked. Just kidding.
Yeah,
Anyways,
exactly.
okay, we're live. Because I mean, just to like backpedal, not to go too long, but like, when I got sober, I gained 70 pounds. And I wasn't someone who like did a bunch of drugs and needed to gain 70 pounds. It was like, I got sober, picked up binge eating disorder, and then like didn't put it down until I went from like a normal size, whatever normal is, to a size that like I couldn't shop in regular stores. And that caused like what Emily said, if I didn't get a hold of my eating disorder, I was going to drink again. Like that was 100%. Because a lot of the reason I drank was because I was so uncomfortable in my body. And when I drank, it took away that feeling of shame and guilt, and I need to hide. Like I couldn't get ready to go out unless I took a drink, So for me, it was a lot of wrapped up around body. So then it was like, okay, I hit a bottom, tried all the things, the cleanses, the diets, the eat 1 calorie one day and 2 calories the next, run 400 miles, like did all those things, realized clearly it doesn't work for the long haul. And so then had to do it like the healthy way. So now with that as in my toolkit and in my background, people coming in and going, dude, I'm struggling. I cannot stop eating. I'm going towards sugar. I'm going towards flour. I cannot stop. Ash, I mean, all of you guys, like, you guys know that was the flood of my DMs. I cannot stop eating. And it was all the trigger foods. Cause like, P.S. there was like a real feeling of, am I ever going to eat again? Because every grocery store, like that was real. It wasn't like a feeling that maybe Emily and I might feel where we're like, if you're frantic, it's like, am I ever going to eat again? It's like, no, like really, am I going to? Because I go to the grocery store and the only thing that's there is 10 yogurts. And I'm looking at the lady next to her and I'm like, should I buy these? And she's all, buy everything. I was like, okay. Right. So that feeling of like, is there not going to be enough was really there. So fast forward, what am I telling people? Take a deep breath. Your response is okay. And right now we're dealing with something that nobody has ever dealt with. And if the biggest thing that's happening right now is that you are overeating some sugar or whatever, that's okay. Take a deep breath, pause, and like maybe let's replace one of these intense meals with something a little bit more nutrient dense. So what I've been telling people is get a lot of color in your food, get some protein, don't fear carbs, like make your food fun and vibrant and beautiful the best you can with what you have. Now, obviously we all have our grocery stores are back to normal. So it's a little bit less of like a panic mode. But people are still struggling with the food because there's a lot of anxiety going on. So really it's get back to the basics and identify your triggering foods. What are the foods that make you go, I need 3 bowls of that, right? Like for me, there are some like red light foods that are in like
alcoholic foods.
Yeah, I would snort it. Like I'd snort Skittles if I could. But I don't mess with Skittles. So I just tell people to go back to the basics, whole real foods, and try to like keep the foods that don't trigger you and be honest with yourself about that. And don't beat the crap out of yourself if you end up going back into old pattern. But also there's 12-step programs for food if you find yourself really struggling with it. So
we just got a great question from a live listener. The question is, do you think it would be harder to get sober right now? I'm just not sure if I'm setting myself up for failure. Melissa.
Danny, you want to answer that?
I mean,
who's feeling moved to answer?
I will just say one quick thing. And there was one period of one thing that my old boss said when I told him that I was going to get sober and stop drinking, go to meetings. He looked at me and he said, "Oh, you're not that bad." Or you were, like, I don't think you're that bad. Like, first of all, he's my boss. He wasn't at home with me crying in my bed, crashing my car, but that's beside the point. A guy said to me, when somebody's ready, nobody can say anything wrong. And when somebody's not ready, nobody can say anything right. And the way I apply that is I would take people to meetings. And if the speaker said something even slightly off of what I wanted or I thought they should say, I'd become very tight and be like, the meeting's not normally like this. Like, we'll go to a different meeting. It's okay. And then they'd be like, I thought it was great. I'm like, I don't know what, who knows? And then there's other times where I thought the speaker was great. And they're like, I don't know, it's not for me. So is it easier or harder? I mean, it's easy when it's easy and it's hard when it's hard. It's as hard as you want to make it. If you're not ready to do it, then it's going to be very hard. If you're ready, it's going to be as easy as can be,
Yeah. I mean, go ahead. Do you want to go, Britt?
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I've seen people get sober living in houses where people are getting loaded. And like, when you're ready, you're ready. If you have a window of willingness, that window closes for most of us. Like you have to take that opportunity and you just make it work. I think there are downsides of right now because I love in-person connection, but the accessibility to recovery meetings right now it's insane. Like it just is like you can go to meetings all day long. I went to a meeting in Scotland. That was pretty cool. So I'm just saying, like, there's like exactly what George was saying. Like, it's like that, if it's meant to be, you can't F it up and you can't force it. So if it's not meant to be. So I think, if you're having that thought that maybe this is a good time, then 100% this is a great time. And you get to say you got sober during a global pandemic. Street cred.
True.
Yeah, I mean, me as well. I think the thing is, what's really cool about is if you go to meetings now and you start to get sober now, you're going to be surrounded by people who are filled with hope. And I feel like what we're all hearing from the media and social media, there's a lot of negative news going on. And it's, for me, I'm really sensitive to energy, and being able to go to a meeting every single day, like, I don't makes me want to cry, and hear people talk about how good things are and how grateful they are has like kept my head on straight during this pandemic, like has really helped me. Not that it's been perfect, because I've had moments of darkness for sure, but knowing that I can go to a place where for the majority of people, they're talking about things that are really uplifting has been really helpful.
Yeah. Awesome. We've got another question from Fran. She says, what was the main void that you were trying to fill with overeating, drinking, and using? Thank you.
You said thank you like we're going to be able to answer that. No, I'm just kidding.
That one out.
Fran, that's a good question, and I think I've heard it referred to as a God-sized hole. I've heard it referred to as a spiritual malady.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I had issues with food growing up. Also, I was an overweight kid. I was made fun of, bullied, which I think fed into my my drinking, the relief I felt from drinking at first. I don't think my parents, I don't think anything went wrong. It's just like everyone drinks. It says in the doctor's opinion, most people drink because they like the effect of it. Alcoholics drink to escape the obsession that's in their brain that is bouncing around in there and will be answered one way or the other. It's a different motivation. So I don't know if I was filling a void so much as I was just trying to escape that voice that was telling me, you can't move forward until you do this thing, until you drink this drink or you take this hit of whatever. You're not going to work. You're not going to make any friends. You're not going to have a relationship. You're not going to do anything until you do what I say. And then once I got into the program, that was relieved in a spiritual fashion. And I was able to sort out the other stuff. And then only then was I able to see the whole, but it wasn't so much a whole as my inability to just exist, like just be quiet. And I still have a hard time with that these days. I just know that if I can do it for a moment at a time, a couple of times a day, I'm way ahead of where I came from, which was, I don't think I felt an emotion that wasn't altered somehow for a very long time. I needed to be in control of the volume on the stereo, so to speak. Mm. So yeah, it was not filling a void for me. It was answering an obsession. That was the problem. Same thing with the food too.
Yeah, I like that it was going to be answered one way or another. That's a really good way to put it, because that's accurate. Anyone else want to touch on that?
An itch that you can't scratch. You know what I mean? For me, at least, it's like, I had an ex-boyfriend who used to call me the queen of one more, which is very telling, because it was like, I wanted one more of everything. Like, I always still, like, when you ask, like, there's that running joke in recovery, like, how many do you want? I want one more. I want more. And I think it stems from this place where I don't know where I ever got the idea that you're never supposed to not feel good, like that you're supposed to feel amazing all the time. But I don't, I've actually come a really long way with this. So I'm going to change the way I say this. It doesn't come natural to me to sit with uncomfortable feelings. That's where, for me, I try to numb out. So like, if I feel left out, if I feel lonely, if I feel rejected, if I feel unattractive, anything, you know, it's like I'm trying to like distract from sitting in that, when like, if you just sit with it and let the feeling happen, like then it passes, like everything passes. And I think I just wasn't equipped with that. Like, I don't think it's to any fault of anyone other than the wiring of my brain being addictive and alcoholic. And so, it's like that feeling of, I can feel it, like just one more, but it's never enough. Like, so there's like a bottomless pit, you know? And so I would, you know, like what George said, coming into the program and like finding out that like I can satisfy that with a spiritual connection and with connection to my fellows and to like being of service to people, and just get that like get that self-esteem, that true self-esteem from esteemable acts, rather than like, I'm just going to keep getting loaded because it's like, I think I feel good because like the walls are breathing, you know what I mean? Like just crazy stuff like that. But I don't know what the void is, but it is a rabbit's hole. It's like Alice's rabbit's hole. But that was a great question. Very profound, Fran.
I think for me, it wasn't really a whole, I'll just small little thing to add is that like, I don't know that it was like a hole, but it was a feeling of like, I just needed to freaking breathe. Like, and that's the drink for me. That's the food.
Yeah.
Is I just need someone to take whatever feeling it is away. And again, so much of mine stemmed around what my body was like. And which really stems from not being enough. Am I enough if my body is this, or if I look like that? And so much of like self-consciousness and self-obsession, and which again, like to everyone's point, like there's no reason. My family was so supportive and told me I could be anything, told me I was beautiful every day, but I had this shield that I can't receive. And so it wasn't until like that feeling of, this is going to sound so cheesy, but that feeling of that spiritual feeling of like filling that God-sized hole, that now it's like I can take a second and pray or meditate for a second. Not that I'm like a spiritual guru, but if I can just pause for a moment, be of service to somebody, then it's like I get the same feeling, which is still insane to me. I mean, it's not the same, but you know what I mean? So
we just got a really good one I want you guys to hear. Joyce sent us a question saying, COVID is the first time I've ever shown alcoholic tendencies. Am I an alcoholic in your opinion?
Who wants to take this one?
I mean, alcoholism is to my understanding, alcoholism is the only disease that has to be self-diagnosed. Mm-hmm. I can have an opinion on you being an alcoholic all day long. Because the nature of the disease, if you're not in a space like I can see somebody who is a total alcoholic, and if they're not in a space where they're ready to admit that to themselves, then like there's not much I can do. I don't know what your drinking patterns are like, but I think if you're questioning it, that's a really good place to start, and that's really self-aware and incredible. And like I commend you for even being brave enough to ask, you know. But it's one of those things where it's like, if you're curious, go attend an open meeting, read the literature of 12-step recovery, see if it resonates with you, because you could be, and it couldn't hurt to find out, I guess.
We have another question about how do you deal with the loneliness of quarantine as an alcoholic? The isolation reminds me of when I was using.
I have to I haven't been lonely in almost 7 years, so I'm going to skip back for a second because I have kids, because I just want to say that Brittany said before people had fear about food. Like, what if I'm actually not going to be able to shop for food? Like, I personally felt like that, but all the time with alcohol. So my alcoholism did not need a pandemic to thrive. It didn't need a Friday night to thrive or a New Year's Eve. I used to think that anybody who questioned whether or not they were an alcoholic was an alcoholic. I don't necessarily believe that today, because I think people are becoming more self-aware of what alcoholism is and asking themselves that question. If you're drinking more than you'd like to, see if you can stop. If you can't stop, then follow up with somebody and say, I tried to stop and I couldn't, because the two things have to be in place. One is the obsession. The second is the physical allergy. If you feel like you have to drink every night, but you're only having a glass of wine, that doesn't qualify. And if you only drink once every 2 weeks, but every time you drink, you have 30 drinks, that doesn't, necessarily qualify either, because you have to have both in order for it to be alcoholism, as far as I understand, the physical allergy and the mental obsession. I'm not saying either of them are good, but alcoholism is a very specific diagnosis. And like Emily said, like we wouldn't be able to, I wouldn't even have the gall to try and diagnose somebody based on a question.
But one thing I always say is, if alcohol is causing you problems, you might have an alcohol problem.
Yeah, that's
so true. What was the question was, how are you dealing with loneliness?
Like
how do you
triggered in your sobriety journey?
Yeah, the isolation reminds me of when I was using.
I think Brett should take this, because
let me tell you about being a pandemic alone. So I've got 2 plants and now a baby Yoda. But yeah, man, in the beginning, like Em knows, I was like frantically like outside riding my bike. I'm like, I need to like be outside, because I was panicking. I felt panicked because too, like I can feel isolated and alone without a pandemic. Like even sober, I'm really good at isolating. I'm really good at like separating myself from the world. And I have to actively go against that. So I think that one of the biggest things, I mean, I think that we all talked about this before too. It's like, I kept going to the grocery store, even though they were saying like the grocery store is like the place you shouldn't go to in the beginning. I was like there every day, because I'm like, I need to see humans. I am a very extroverted person. Although I can be introverted, I do need the energy of other humans. So one thing that helps is having, like, if you don't have a little pod, I would find some people that you can actually interact with in person, that you feel safe interacting with. Whatever that looks like for you, but like a hug. I cried the first hug I got. I was like, I just started crying because I like needed that physical touch. And then meetings, huge, FaceTiming with friends, and just being honest, to everyone's point this whole time. It's like being honest about what you're feeling, because it's scary. Like my brain didn't know how to comprehend what was happening. And then too, like I go to the gym every day, so I'm used to seeing people at the gym, and I didn't realize until the pandemic hit how much that was not just because I want to like lift weights. It's because I needed to see my people, and that was about community for me. And so having all that taken away, like I totally relate and like get it 100%, and get outside, go for a walk, see people, like wave to them, smile, like, engage with humans is what I would say.
So we're
one quick thing. I'll just say reading, because I have gotten lonely mentally in this quarantine. Reading makes me feel like I'm taking care of myself more than anything I do. Especially when you have nothing to do. Like I can't go to the gym. Reading, I'm not talking about reading on the phone, like getting a book and opening it and reading 5 pages, which is about all I do, but I do it every day, has been very helpful for me.
Mm-hmm. Love that. We're going to get to our last question. I think it's a good one for all of us. When did you know you were an alcoholic? Em?
Oh, okay. Gosh, let me think. When did I know I was an alcoholic? Well, my alcoholism lives in denial. I spent a lot of years. I didn't know what an alcoholic was. I thought it was a homeless man under the bridge with a brown paper bag. That wasn't me. So I just didn't know that like that was part of the problem. I knew I had an eating disorder. That was very obvious because normal people, digest their food. But but when I went into treatment in 2004, and I remember I don't even think I thought I was an alcoholic then, to be honest with you. I think when I came back and couldn't stay sober, because my now husband and I had a little bit of a not sober part of our relationship, which led to us breaking up. And I thought, now he's gone. The problem's gone. Now I can get sober. And I spent about 4 months trying to get sober. And like, I think, and I'm super grateful that that relapse happened, because I would never have been fully convinced. I think just in the experience of becoming a relapser, something I used to judge, you know, and seeing my powerlessness and truly just understanding, like, I cannot pull this off. I cannot do it. Like, it's never going to work. I am a pickle. I was a cucumber and now I'm a pickle, and I'm never going to be a cucumber again. And maybe I need a tattoo of like a pickle or something.
Pickle Rick, Pickle Emily.
Do it.
And Britt, when did you know you were an alcoholic?
You know, it's funny. I don't know why I keep wanting to cry on this.
Do it.
It's such a freaking emotional mess.
Let it go.
Why are you holding out?
God, I've gotten so soft in sobriety. That's one thing you'll discover, is like these feelings you never knew you had. It's funny. All the girls I coach like make fun of me, like, you just cry. I'm like, I can't help it. I'm so moved. But it's, you know, I had a drunk calendar in college where because I was the person that drank every few weeks and did blackout. But when I got like, it was like, once I started, I couldn't stop. And it was like, I will go and go and go and go and go until I like wake up in a different state. And I'm like, oh, what happens? Like, and so I had this calendar in college where I would mark, like, blacked out, drank 2 drinks, had tacos, didn't black out, had a salad, blacked out, definitely the salad, not the tacos. Like, like I was trying to like calculate and figure this whole thing out. And so when I graduated, I had done something like pretty horrendous to a really good friend and really hurt them. So I was like, I'm quitting drinking. So I started to quit drinking on my own, and I quit drinking for 30 days. And then I was in Colorado and I got some drink tickets, and I was like, I mean, that's a little extreme to like quit drinking. So blacked out, was found in the snow in negative 17-degree weather. People took me home. And I woke up the next day, and that's the day that I Googled blacking out. And I didn't know then that I was an alcoholic, but I was like, that's weird that that would come up when I Googled blacking out. It was when I heard other people that understood me. It was like that moment where I was like, oh my God, I felt like a freaking alien in this world. And I would try to explain the feelings that I had to my friends. And like, when I heard the words incomprehensible demoralization, I was just like, thank you. Like, it was weird. I know some people are like, I don't want to be an alcoholic. I was like, thank God. This is what's wrong with me, because I've wondered what the hell is wrong with me for so long. You know, I was like, oh my God. So now there's a solution. And so for me, it was the moment I heard people speaking the same language I had felt and had no idea how to articulate, is when I knew. I was like, oh, this is like welcome home. And it sounds so cheesy, but it's like, I was like, this is it. Like, thank God I don't feel like, I mean, I still feel like an alien, but like, thank God I don't feel, you know, like nobody understands. I got being around people that got it, really at the heart center, got it. That's it.
George, when did you know you were an alcoholic?
I had all this time to think about it, and I still don't know. It was, I realized I was an alcoholic on May 20th, 2002, but I had kind of known but denied that I was an alcoholic. And when I say realized, I just mean I allowed it to become real that day. Because I always knew in the back of my mind, like, I said to my mother when I was 17, I was like, yo, I am not drinking like the other kids. I get 12, they get 6. I finish my 12. I finish everyone else's last 2 or 3. Like, nobody finishes their 6-pack, and I finish 2, and then everyone else's. So I knew something was wrong, but the moment I knew that I was an alcoholic, like I realized it became real, was when my mother told me I was either going to have to stop drinking that day or get out of the house that night. And I don't know if she would have kicked me out, but the fact that she brought it to me in such a manner let me know that maybe I was making too little of a deal, where I felt like she was making too big of a deal out of it. And my Uncle John, who was sober for 17 years or 15 years at the time, he was like, in the family, I feel like it's okay to have a drunk uncle because they're like a little bit removed, but they're still close enough. So he was an alcoholic and that was fine, right? My mom said that when they went to go pick him up for his last detox, they dropped him off and they went back to his house and there was nothing in his house at all. Like not food, not clothes, no furniture, just like 18 to 24 inches of beer cans on the whole floor, right? So she said, now imagine that you weren't drinking in a bar and imagine you were drinking beer cans. He had been drinking like that for years. What would your room look like in a month? And I did a little quick math. And I think I was even conservative. I was like 12 times 30, that's 360. My room is 10 by 10. I'm an alcoholic. Like I just knew that I knew I would be kicking through beer cans walking into my room. Because I tried to say, oh, I would clean it up every day. Like if you're an alcoholic, that's part of the problem is that you don't care about yourself enough to clean up the mess that you're making. It feeds into itself. So that was the exact moment. And when I watch, when I see people have their moment, that's the moment that I think of. Because that was when I didn't so much realize I was an alcoholic as the denial just melted away.
Yeah. Well, that is all the time that we have. Thank you so much to our amazing panelists and everyone who joined in to watch us live today. We hope you will join us at our next panel on August 17th. We will be announcing the panelists very soon. Of course, we will be having our biggest celebration on September 22nd to commemorate National Online Recovery Day. So mark your calendars for this epic online event called Getting Clean and Staying Connected. In the meantime, head over to our podcast, The Courage to Change, a recovery podcast, and you can listen to each of our panelists' recovery stories in detail. Yeah. Thank you so much again, and we'll see you soon.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.